Hello and welcome to an amazing SNAPA video. I am Danielle, your SNAPA multiple time test taker. So what we're going to talk about in this class is I've lost my motivation. Okay, so let's find it because we got to find it if we're going to finish this thing. So I am Danielle. I am a multiple time test taker. I've taken it 4 times. I am also a tutor. Casey always likes to say, if you want some like real hard loving, come see me.
You want like a bad bitch coach to like tell you what it's like?
I don't even let her get away. Like I let her cry sometimes and then I'm like, no, let's go. Come on, get it together.
You're like, are you crying again? Get it fucking together, all right?
No,
like,
I don't say it again. I just say, I feel like we could X, Y, and Z it. So it's fine. So we are all the real, raw, and relatable. We're gonna have a real conversation about, because I've been there where I'm like, I'm done, I'm out, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm tired, this is a lot of stress, this is a lot of money, this is a lot of time, this is affecting my family, I have no life. So I 100% understand where you're at, where you feel like, ugh, yuck. Okay. I'm also a public school BCBA, so I do that every single day. I love it sometimes it's really questionable. So let's branch and learn and figure out where we're going to find our motivation again. Okay. So there are quotes that I have put, there's 2 quotes in here, and I'll probably read you some more because there's some on my computer and there's some on my phone. But these are quotes that mean something to me that I have used at some point in my life to help me help myself. So I am a motivational quote person if I am in a place where I need some motivation. Now, if I'm in a good place, I'm not walking around looking for, it just depends. But it's supposed to be, so it says, right? The struggle you are facing is a test to see if you are truly committed to the life that you want. You are doing a hard thing. Okay. This is a hard thing. This is a hard test. This is a hard like sacrifice. This is a hard sacrifice of time, of money, of relationships, of friendships, of social media, of all of the things, right? So are you going to put in the work is essentially what this is, right? Like this is a struggle. This isn't easy. This is like a trudge through the mud, like all uphill situation. But you're putting in the work. And sometimes the plan that you want requires you to struggle a little bit longer than someone else, right? Because that's just how life is. So, it's just, can you withstand, or are you going to engage in your own negative reinforcement and want to do what's easy, right? Because in the grand scheme of things, it isn't easy. Like on my phone, so what I have on my phone right now, which is usually where my motivational quotes live, is it says, the bigger the dream, the harder the grind, right? So it just requires more work. It's not easy. So it's a hard grind, but it's worth it in the end. Okay. So we're going to talk a little, I will go off on all kinds of tangents. So just bear with me. So when I was making these slides, these are some things that I, want you to think about, right? So here are questions that you need to ask yourself. So I wanted you to have some takeaways from this so that you can say, okay, you're right, Danielle, I am doing these things, because sometimes we need to do our own self-assessment and be like, oh, I am kind of getting in my own way, right? So have you looked at, how are you getting in your own way? Are you making excuses when things get hard, right? So am I like, oh, well, you know, I only have an hour to study tonight. Well, that's not enough, so I'm just not going to study at all. Or I know I should read, but I'm going to do this instead. Or I'll just look at this and I won't do this, right? So what are you doing? Are you sabotaging yourself? Like, is somebody giving you really good advice and you're like, yeah, I'll do that. And then you're like, yeah, forget it. When I wrote this, you keep making excuses when you're doing hard, when things get hard, literally made me think about Cooper book. In tutoring, all of the time, I hear, well, I don't want to read it, it's hard. So you're right, it is hard. It's a hard thing. But I literally said this to someone the other day. If you are supposed to be a behavior scientist, right, which is what a BCBA is, except you're board certified, you're a behavior analyst, you're a behavior scientist, How are you supposed to science if you don't read where the science comes from? Right? So how can you cheat yourself and cheat the people that you work with and cheat your clients, really, if you don't stop and say, this thing is hard. These words are hard. But if you don't truly understand those words in that book, how are you really going to make an impact on your life and someone else's life? You're not really a scientist if you cheat. You can read the cliff notes and you can pass. Great. But are you really going to know what's best? You have to remember that you're learning a new skill, right? No one in here besides me and Casey are behavior analysts, BCBAs. You are learning a new skill. And when you learn something new, it's hard, right? But the more you practice, the better you play. So the more you read your book, the easier it gets because you're coming in contact with those words more and more, and you're able to figure it out, and you understand the science, and then you understand how things actually go together. And if we're talking about verbal behavior, this means this, but if we're talking about this, this means this, but these are actually the same thing. You have to read your book. You have to stop making an excuse. That's the number one excuse I hear all of the time. It's just hard. I don't like it. It's not fun. Right, it's science. It's science. Would you want your doctor who prescribed you medication to be like, yeah, I didn't want to read all of that? No, probably not. Right? You're like, no, I'm good. I don't want to go to you because I know that you just use the cliff notes. You're still impacting someone's life, whether you're writing a prescription for medication or not. You're writing a prescription for their behavior and you're helping them teach a new skill. So you have to stop and say, what am I doing to get in my own way? That also may be the things that you say to yourself. Okay. Be mindful of your words. We're going to talk about it. Okay. Here, perfect thing. How are you speaking to yourself? Are you saying, this is hard. I'm not a good test taker. I'm not good at this. I don't know if I'm going to pass. I don't know. I'm going to tell you right here, right now, that's not going to help. That's not going to help. You should live in that. I'm going to pass. I'm amazing. I know what I'm talking about. You just feel uncomfortable because people are going to make you feel like, well, why are you talking like that about yourself? That's ridiculous. You're just bragging. No, I'm not. I just believe in myself. If I think I'm a bad bitch, I'm going to act like a bad bitch. And I will say, like, me being like this, my daughter who's 12 is like, I'm beautiful. I'm amazing. I can do this. I can do that. And I'm like, yes, ma'am, you sure can. So you have to gas yourself up. You have to say, I am a good test taker because I know when I go in there, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to break down the questions. I know when to take a break. I have practiced. I am prepared because it's just a test. When you get in there and you're like, oh my God, that's you. You need to rein yourself in. If you let yourself get out of control, then you're going to feel out of control. If you can ground yourself and say, hey, man, knock it off. I have practiced mock exams. I have read books. I have done my notes. I have reviewed. I have studied. I have gone to study group. What is there to worry about? Right? So how are you speaking to yourself? That's a huge one. You need to think that you're amazing so that you can go in and be amazing. And here's the news. If you don't pass the first time, you're still amazing, right? Now you just have to figure out, what do I have to tweak to do it again? It's not an end all be all. Okay. Are you protecting your energy? This may mean that you need to mute some things on your social media, right? If it's making you stressed out, this may mean that you don't randomly go and look at those weird ass questions that they post on those ABA study group pages that are so obscure. And then you're like, well, do I really know what I'm talking about? Don't do that to yourself. Don't be around people that say, well, maybe you should just stop. You're just, I just know that it's hard. No, that is not an option for me. That is not the type of energy I want. I want the person in my life that's going to say to me, come on, let's go. Let's go over here to the coffee shop. Let me say the words to you. Talk it out to me. Those are the things that you want. Those are the people that you want. So it may be like, hey, friend, we are friends, but not right now because I'm not available for you to tell me, like, maybe you should just stop. No, that's not an option for me. What an option is for me is that you say, yes, let's go do it together. Okay. And where is your focus? Okay, so here's where I'm going to pause for a minute, because sometimes you get to the point where you're like, this sucks, and this is really hard. So I'm going to tell you, this is the truth. So I took my test and got a 397 the third time. That is a real hard bummer. Okay. Like, that's hard. It involves a lot of time and it involves a lot of money. And as somebody that's taken it multiple times, you're not sad about not passing your test. You're sad that you have to do everything fucking again, because you can't not study what you didn't know, because you don't know what you didn't know. So you have to study everything again. And you're so disappointed in the amount of time that you have to turn around and do again. It sucks. And I said, I need a hard time out from life. And so I packed all of my stuff up and I took a 2.5 month break, because I was all done. I wasn't in a good space. It was hard. It was taking all of my family time, and I just needed a break. So I'm here to tell you that sometimes if you feel like you can in your process, take a break, walk away, pack it up. Don't look at it. Don't talk about it. Because if you're not in a good space, when you're studying again, you're not gonna retain any information because you're mad, right? It's like when you're mad at someone and you're trying to have a conversation with them and you're like, and you're like grouchy at them because you haven't let it go, right? You're just holding that grudge, versus I forgive you and I let it go and we're moving on and we're moving forward. That's kind of how you need to think about your test, right? Am I in a place to just let it go so that I can pick it back up and keep going? Or am I so angry at the amount of time and the money and the effort that I need to push pause, and I need to take a break, and I need to pack it away, and I need to watch trashy TV. I need to go to lunch with my friends. I need to go get a manicure. I need to get a massage. I need to just life for a minute and then pick it back up. So make sure that you're in a space where you can feel successful, because that's the goal. Here's what I'm also going to say about your words. Okay. We spend a lot of time telling people to use positive behavior specific language, right? Tell them what you want them to do instead of no, don't, and stop. I say that all the time at school. Okay, don't tell them to stop swinging their jacket. What do you want them to do? I want them to hold it. Okay, great. Hold your jacket. I know exactly what I want to do. If you spend the majority of your time saying, I don't want to pass, or I don't want to fail, all you're hearing is fail, right? What you should be saying is, I'm going to pass. I'm going to pass, because that's the word that you hear. So you need to live in the I'm going to pass. I, every day, wrote that 5 times. Every day before I ever started studying, because that is what I wanted to have in my mind, because I was doing it again for the 4th time. Did I want to wallow that I had to do it again for the 4th time? No, what I wanted to do was pass. That's what I hadn't done differently. Everything else I had already done, which was fail 3 other times. So I'm going to pass. Pass is where it's at. I'm not going to doubt myself either. I'm going to do this because I know that I can, right? And here's the news. Nothing bad happens if you fail. It's just like problem behavior. I know if my kid has problem behavior, there's nothing new. We have physical aggression, we have verbal aggression, we have property destruction, and we have elopement. I know that you have those problem behaviors. That's not anything new to me. So you're going to use one of those. I know that if I don't pass this test, or maybe I fail again, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be sad. You're going to cry. You're going to be mad. And then you're going to get over it. It's the same thing that happened to me 3 times. I don't need to worry about what's going to fail. What happens when I fail? I know what's going to happen when I fail. If I fail, I'm going to be sad. I'm going to be mad. I'm going to cry. And then I'm going to get over it. That's what's happened. So stop worrying about failing. You've already done it. You've already done it. It's not a big deal. You're still standing. You're still breathing. You just have to work at it longer than someone else. You have to live and I'm going to pass. And you can't doubt yourself. As soon as that doubt creeps in, you need to push it away. You don't have time for that. I'm only living in I'm going to pass. And here's what I'm doing differently to pass, because I am amazing and I'm going to do this. So Think about how you're speaking to yourself. Find that quote that speaks to you. The one that I wrote in my book when I was studying, again for the fourth time, said, every storm runs out of rain. Every storm runs out of rain. Right now it's raining, but eventually that rain will stop and the sun will come out and everything will be wonderful and beautiful. I just don't know how long I have to weather the storm. And that's hard when everyone's storm is different. Okay. So you have to think about how you're speaking to yourself, and you have to learn that skill to be like, I am good at this. I'm going to pass. I'm amazing. I'm a bad bitch. I can do all of these hard things, right? I can do hard things. But you have to live in that. You have to live in that. And it just makes you uncomfortable at first because not a lot of people talk to themselves like that. Okay. Jordan, when we were on class on Wednesday and you said, I'm not a good test taker, this made me think of you when I put this in here. This is huge, right? Yet is huge. I can't do this yet. This doesn't work yet. I don't know yet. It doesn't make sense yet. I don't get it yet. I'm not good at this yet, right? Yet is huge. What do I have to do when I hit that yet? That means I'm working at it. So you can say, I'm not a good test taker yet, right? You have practiced different skills. You're doing things differently. So you don't know if you're not a good test taker. You're only going off past learning history. But if you've done things differently, you don't know if you're not a good test taker or not, right? But you also can't get in your head and say, I'm not a good test taker. Yes, you are. You are a good test taker. Just because you fail something the first time doesn't mean that you're not a good test taker. It's maybe that I didn't study the way that I should have studied or meet my own needs. So you have to, I can't do this yet. So like when I go to the gym and I lift my weights, and my goal is always to like get more weight. And when we were doing our maxing out, I was like, okay, I want 210 on a deadlift. I wanted 210 on a deadlift. And I got to 205. And I was like, oh, that's a bummer, but I can get 205, but I'm going to get 210, right? That was my yet. I'm going to get there. It's just going to take more practice. You're not always going to hit your mark the first time, right? Just like our kids. We don't go in and say, here's what you should do. And then they do it the first time, right? We encourage them. We give them praise. We reinforce them for those approximations of the behavior so that we can get them down the road. We just forget that we don't grace ourselves with the same thoughts. We don't think, okay, I'm shaping, right? So I'm going to have to keep working at this and get better and better over time. It's just that we want to go from here to here and be done with it and be like, I'm really great at this, because usually the only thing that we see is that final product of an expert, right? But we don't see all of the work that they put in. So no, like I love Dr. Spiker. He is amazing. We are Instagram friends. I am sure he is putting work in every day to be amazing, but I don't see the work that he's put in. I just know that he is a PhD and he is amazing, and he does the PBS stuff, and he has a podcast, and he teaches at FIT, and he does all of these things. That is an amazing person, but I don't see all the work that he puts in. So I can say, well, I want to do that. Sure, go ahead and do that. But if you don't put in the work, how are you going to get there? So give yourself some grace. Remember that you can't do that yet. But when you pass your test, are you a good test taker now? Right? So make sure that you're giving yourself that grace of yet. Okay? You can do it. It's just when. And you have to do that practice.
In progress.
Exactly. Celebrate your progress, right? So like, I'm not going to hit every lift, but I am sure happy with 205. And then we start all over and we do a bunch of different things. And when I max out in a couple of months, I hope I hit 210 because I've been doing things differently. So it is all about progress, but sometimes the progress isn't the amount of weight I can lift. Sometimes my progress is, what does my form look like? Oh my gosh, my form from last time to this time is significantly improved, right? So progress can look different and not just a passing score, right? Progress can look different in different areas. So make sure that you're celebrating your successes, because those are those small wins along the way that you want to highlight. You guys, we just focus on the end, right? I want to be here, but I'm here. And I forget that I have to celebrate all of the things in the middle. Okay. So we have to do something different, right? We can't continually do the same things over and over again and expect a different result. So this is where, like, okay, I need that pick me up, right? Of like, okay, I found my motivational quote. I can do these things, but I have to do things differently, right? Because doing the same thing over and over again is just torture, right? I don't know why I keep doing this, but I keep doing this. So when you're looking at what are the goals you're going to set for yourself, right? Are you doing things differently this time around? Or when you've lost your motivation, how do you change things up to create that motivation so you're hitting success? Because I'm going to tell you, if you're not feeling motivated, then you're not contacting reinforcement. So you're not reinforcing yourself and you're not being successful. So you feel like, oh, this is really difficult. So what are you going to do differently to make sure that you're contacting that success for yourself and you're feeling motivated for yourself? When you're reading Cooper, 2 things. Don't read for number of pages. That's awful. It will be just a dream killer. Read for time, right? I'm going to read for time, and I'm going to increase the amount of time I'm going to spend in Cooper. Maybe you only read for 10 minutes before you take a break, and then read another 10 minutes. And then for a week, you do that. And then you read for 15 minutes and then take a break, and you gradually increase your time. When I sat down to read Cooper, I always had a purpose. What am I doing when I'm reading? Am I reading for clarification? Am I reading for knowledge? What am I doing to help myself be successful with this book? Because it is hard. It's not a romance novel. It's not a smutty book, right? That they're all over TikTok. It's science. It's not sexy, but it can be, right? It can be sexy once you figure out what you're reading, and then things are clicking, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's this, and I get this, and I do this in my everyday life. Okay. So have a purpose. What is your purpose? Okay. Mock exams. What are you doing with your mock exams? Okay. Are we just taking a bunch of mock exams to take a bunch of mock exams, or are you using them with a purpose? Right? We had this conversation in class on Wednesday. You can't compare 2 different mock exams from 2 different companies. It's not a good representation of your knowledge. If you're going to use a mock exam to compare your progress, you need to say, I used mock A and study notes. I'm going to use mock B in a month from now and compare where I'm at, right? Because that's written by the same company. How are you using your mock exams? Are you also using them to figure out, like, why did I miss these questions? So you have to use your tools that you have. You don't have to go out and buy a bunch of new stuff. Use the tools you have to help you be successful. Look at, why are you making mistakes? So you've missed a question. That's an error. You don't know. So figure out, why did you miss that question? Okay. That's what's going to help you be successful on your next set of questions, because you've problem solved and figured out, why did I miss this question? Not just what is the right answer. Because there are no more Cooper quizzes, have Cooper quizzes. So can you get those Cooper quizzes and test your science knowledge, right? Not your applied knowledge. So I want to test it on both sides. Can I have that conversation and identify those scientific things, and then also be able to pick it out in an applied example? Have you been to tutoring? We have wonderful tutors. I am a tutor. We have Sarah, and we also have Kat. So I'm going to tell you how tutoring works when you come see me, because I only know how tutoring works when you come see me. You can come to tutoring for whatever you want. If you want to come and share your feelings with me, I'm here for it. I am a great listener, and we can do all of the feelings if that's what you need. If you need a study plan, you can do that in tutoring. If you want to bring your mock exam results and you want to go through mock questions, we can do that. If you want to talk about a list of concepts, we can do that. If you want to share a Google sheet with me with things that you're not sure of and we fill it in together, we can do that. Tutoring works however you need tutoring to work, okay? So really, we are the facilitators of the tutoring session, but we are truly there to help you understand and apply those things. The goal of tutoring is that you have some light bulbs if you're talking about concepts, or you can apply them, right? And say, okay, I understand this, but I need some more examples. Absolutely. Do you need a study group? A study group is not for everyone, okay? I was not in a study group. I didn't have time. I couldn't make it work. It just wasn't for me, okay? But study groups work really well, okay? Are you in a study group? Have you found a group of people that you can call on and meet and talk about the things? Maybe somebody's gonna teach someone else a concept. Find a study group if a study group is what fills your heart and you need some accountability, okay? We also have, so I just recommended this today in tutoring. If you have a specific thing that you're like, I really am still stinky at this, like controlling relations in self-management, okay? You can buy that drop-in class and you can watch that video and say, okay, I understand this now. Let me watch this video with my book open, right? And go really slow and read through my book and watch the video at the same time, so that I can work on that together, right? So you feel like someone is there with you. And you can always do question dissection. Question dissection is good, but here's what I tell you about question dissection. Again, figure out where you're making a mistake. That's what question dissection is about. Yes, you can dissect the question, but you also have to figure out where are you making a mistake so you don't make it again. Taking 9 million mocks does not help you figure out where you make a mistake, because you're just hoping you're getting it right. But here's the news. Mock A and Mock B don't have the same questions. So you may have got something wrong in C in Mock A, but then you get all the right answers in Mock B. That's not going to help you by taking 9 million questions. What you want to do is take your mock, figure out where you're making mistakes, and then take another mock and not make those mistakes. Okay, so you have to problem solve. What am I doing that's getting in my way when it comes to answering questions? Also, I got this advice the other day, but there's a couple of, because I think, yeah. So here's what I want to tell you. There's a couple of things. I want you to remember, stop taking everyone's advice. At this point, stop taking everyone's advice. Like somebody came to tutoring today and they said, well, this is the advice I got. And I was like, that is the most unhelpful advice I have ever heard. That's not even helpful, right? Why? You didn't even help me figure out what I needed help with. You just told me something, okay? Everyone's situation, everyone's supervision, everyone's schooling is different. So stop asking other people for advice, because everyone is different. Okay, you need to do a self-assessment and say, where am I getting in my way? What do I need to be successful? How am I going to do things differently? And how am I going to make sure that I myself am contacting reinforcement and understanding what I'm talking about? I'm not saying don't go to somebody for help and say like, hey, I don't really understand conditional discrimination. Can you explain it to me? Yeah, that's different. But if I go to you and say, oh, you know, this is where I feel, and they just say, well, do practice question dissection. How is that helpful? That's not helpful. Well, that's great. But is really that it? I don't know, because that was just what you threw at me. So sometimes you have to just stop asking for advice, and you have to sit in the space of saying, like, what do I need to do to be successful? And then if you don't know, go to an expert, go to a tutor, go to somebody that you can say, here are all the things that I'm doing. Here's what I feel like I know. Do you have any recommendations? Then you can have a conversation. They can say, that is a great plan, but I would also add this piece in, or that I would not do that, and I would just focus on this. So make sure that you're having a conversation with someone that can help you be successful, and not just somebody that's just out there giving advice. Okay. I love this with my whole heart. Okay. And it really resonates with me, and it's on my phone, and it's in my favorites. The unknown is often uncomfortable, but it's where the magic happens. Okay. The unknown is uncomfortable. The unknown is growth. Okay. if you are never uncomfortable, you're never growing. And I always teased in my classroom, it was a great day in Mrs. Stevens' class if somebody cried because you were uncomfortable and you didn't want to do it. But guess what? We powered through and we got it done, and you got your reinforcement and you got your needs met, and we got one step better. Sometimes Mrs. Stevens was the one that was crying because I was learning and I was like, oh, that did not go well, right? How are we going to do it differently next time? So if you are never uncomfortable and you're making an excuse to get out of the uncomfortable, just know you're reinforcing your own problem behavior. You are engaging in your own escape and avoidance behavior by not being uncomfortable. So when you don't want to read your Cooper book, when you don't want to show up for study group, when you don't want to do something because it's making you uncomfortable, and you don't do it, you have reinforced your own behavior. Be uncomfortable. Be uncomfortable, because the more you're uncomfortable, the easier it gets. And the magic piece is that you're uncomfortable and you're growing and you're going to get better, and eventually it won't be uncomfortable anymore. So be uncomfortable, because magic is happening there. And sometimes the uncomfortable is really uncomfortable, and lots of tears happen there, and lots of questioning why, and lots of wanting to quit, and lots of wanting to give up, but you can't. It's not a choice. You can rest, but you can't quit, because magic is happening. You just don't know it. Like, you just can't see it yet, but you will. You'll look back and see it. Like for me, was taking the test 4 times ideal? No, I didn't want to take it 4 times. But what was beautiful in that 4 times is that I was able to get a job where I was program support and learn all of these wonderful skills about soft skills and conversations and helping and collaborating. Because then when it was divine timing and that job, that BCBA job was open and I got it, I had built all of these fantastic skills that I wouldn't have built if I didn't have to go through all those trials. So there is magic happening there. It's just hard to see the magic when you're uncomfortable and you're growing and you're stumbling and you're cussing yourself out and you're pissed and you're all of these things, but it pays off. It will all happen when it's supposed to happen. So be uncomfortable so that magic can continue to happen. So when you have to have a difficult conversation, I want you to remember me. Oh, I got to have this conversation. It's all right. It may not go well, but it will gradually go better. It will get better because you're going to practice it and know, I'm not going to say that next time. Next time, I'm going to say it like this. So make sure that you live in that uncomfortable space so that you can get better and better, right? That uncomfortable space may be you gassing yourself up, because the only time the only person in your test is you. So you can have all of your friends and be like, you're great, you're amazing, you got this, blah, blah, blah. But guess what? You're the only one in there taking that test. If you don't gas yourself up now and you're not practicing that, it's going to be really difficult when you get in there and those questions are hard, and then you're going to want to fall apart, and that's not an option. But if you've talked yourself through that and you've said, no, ma'am, that is not a choice. This is a hard question, and that's all right. Like, what do I know, right? You have to stand in, I've got this because I am amazing. Okay. So I hope that, oh, wait, here we go. If you want more study notes, we know that. Okay. But I hope that you realize that there are options. One, it is just a test. It is a want, and a very large want. It is not a need, right? Yes, you have a job, and it may not be your best job, but you have a job, and you have people in your life that care about you. You have pets, you have family, you have friends, you have what you need to be successful. This is a really big want, and you will get that want, but you have to take it off the pedestal. It's just a test. And here's the news. No one gives 2 shits how many times you take that test. No one cares. The only person that cares is you. And then guess what? After you pass the test, you're not going to care either. But I feel like that's one of my responsibilities, is that no one talks about how many times I have to take the test. Like, I was sitting in my group, my team, and there's 6 BCBAs on the team. And I said something about, oh yeah, I took it multiple times. And one of the BCBAs looked at me and she goes, I took it multiple times. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. No one knows that. I didn't know. It wasn't like I could look at her and be like, you took it once, and you took it once, and you took it 2 times, and you took it. Nobody can do that. What people are looking at is what you're doing to make an impact on someone else's life and help them be successful. That's what people want. They want you to be a really good scientist. They don't care how many times you've taken it. That doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And you're going to do it eventually. That's also it. It's going to happen eventually. Nothing terrible happens. Stop telling people. That's what I tell you too. Stop telling people that you're going to take your test. Have a lie ready to go and just tell them that you're studying. Stop telling people, because when people are asking you, when are you going to pass? When are you going to pass? They don't care about you. They just want to know that you're going to pass and they have to do less work. Okay. So stop telling people. Stop telling people. I am the worst liar on the spot. The absolute worst. Absolute. But if I pre-plan a lie, I'm good to go. So if somebody was, I remember when I was going to take my test, I had to take the day off, and I worked with the nosiest people who had access to my calendar. So I was like, oh, I have to go to the doctor, but it's at like 10:15. So I just had to take a whole day because I couldn't take a half day because it was just a weird time of the day. Make up a lie. Make up a lie. I'm studying. That's all people knew I was doing. Oh, I'm studying. I'm not for sure when I'm going to take it yet. I'm studying. I'm not for sure when I'm going to take it, because it doesn't matter. Those people really don't care about you. I'm sure there are people at work or your work friends, and they're wonderful, and I love my work friends, but in the grand scheme of things, people at work just want to work less. So stop telling them. When you pass, it's about you. Okay, they can celebrate you. You deserve to be celebrated, but stop telling them when you're going to test, because all they're going to do is stress you out. When are you taking it? When are you taking it? Blah, 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 blah. And it's just like adding more and more fuel. I'm studying. I'm not for sure. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to find a test date. Everything is always booked up and it's really far away. Like, just have those things ready to go and just be studying. And just be studying, and then be prepared to somebody to snoop on your calendar and ask you why you're taking your day off, because I know all of you well enough to know you never take any days off. You're always at work. You're always showing up. You're that one person that somebody can depend on, because that's me. And then when I take off, somebody's always in my business. You're not at work. Where are you? Is everything okay? And I'm like, get out of my lane, man. It takes $0 to stay in your lane. Okay. Tell people that. Okay. So what I want you to remember is that you can do hard things. It is 100% okay to rest. I even have that on my body. Let me take it off this tattoo right here says rest if you must, but don't you quit. Okay. It's okay to take a break. I took a break. I was a hard no, thank you. I was all done. I was like, I got to pack this shit up for a minute. Okay. But then I came back to it. So remember, it's okay to take a break and come back. Remember that you need to have why am I reading? What's my purpose today when I sit down to read? Read for time. Don't read for number of pages. Make sure that you're contacting reinforcement. Find a quote that speaks to you. Go to Pinterest and search motivational quotes.
I mean, guys, I have under my boob tattooed, never a failure, always a lesson. So exactly. It's a contingency you come into contact with. It's not a failure. It's a lesson.
Literally, I could hold on. Like, these are
that's
all
my first divorce, and now almost my second one. So.
I have a question. These things on my desk. I have all of these things that speak to me. These are all motivational quotes that speak to me. So it says, yes, I can, watch me. Okay. Then I have this one says, you have to fail to pass. So stay ready so I don't have to get ready. This one says, show them how dangerous you are. And then this one says, what belongs to me will simply find me. And this one says, I can, I am, I will, I do. And this is my storm one. So find those things that speak to you, that help you, give you that little umph. Okay. Because we all need that.
Danielle.
Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Right, before you ask a question, Mel, I'm going to end the recording and then we can chat. So stop recording. Thank you guys for coming. Love you. Mean it. Hopefully it should make you feel super, super, super amazing, because you are.